Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Wild and Live with me, Patrick Aryee. I'm sure you're all. I think you're doing well. Are we doing well? I hope we are. It's a challenging time for everybody. I know we're a bit confused as to what's going on, really, but it's still good fun to be able to bring these Wild and Live shows to you guys. What is Wild and Live? Well, it's the show that brings you some of the coolest facts about the animal kingdom, and we're doing that with the help of some fabulous people that work with animals. So that's biologists, conservationists, and filmmakers alike. And today we've got a really great guest. We've got a seal enthusiast, a marine ranger, Natalie Rance. Natalie, are you Wild and Live?
I am, hiya.
Awesome, fantastic. I'm just going to make sure that we have our comments. Where's our comments box? Make sure we've got everything set up here. Hey, look at that. We can see everybody's comments coming in, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we before we kick off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I am the Marine Ranger for the Isles of Scilly Wildlife Trust. So for those who don't know, the Isles of Scilly are 28 miles off the edge of Cornwall, out in the North Atlantic. And basically, the Isles of Scilly Wildlife Trust is the only independent, locally run conservation charity. So we look after about 50% of the land on Scilly. But my role as Marine Ranger is mostly sort of public outreach and education. So during the summer, under normal circumstances, I'm on the Salonian 3 passenger ferry, back and forth, looking for wildlife and just chatting to people, really.
Cool. Sounds awesome. I understand that you absolutely love seals.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's part of my job here as well, but I've also previously worked at the Cornish Seal Sanctuary. So yeah, absolutely love them.
Okay, well, let's get into it then, because we are talking about grey seals today. And I've got a couple of questions to start us off. But of course, for those of you that are watching, please, if you have any questions, fire them in and we'll get them over to Natalie and see what she has to say, if she can get them right. Let's see. Okay, biggest question of the day here for you, Natalie. Seals and sea lions, are they the same species? And if they're not, what is the difference between the two?
Okay, so that was normally like one of the biggest questions that we used to get when I was at the Seal Sanctuary a lot. And no, definitely not the same thing. Like, there's quite a few differences between them. Sometimes people think that it's just size. It's really not. Like, you can get some really big seals, like the elephant seal, for example, and you can get much smaller sea lions. The main difference to look out for is the external ear on a sea lion. So basically, sea lions, they have an external ear. Seals don't. They've basically got just a hole inside of their head. And it's all to do with the climates they're adapted to, really. So sea lions are warmer climates, so they can have that external ear. Whereas seals, where they're in a colder place, they need to conserve all the heat that they can. So they just got a hole, basically.
Okay, so yeah, that's one of the things that I was taught to try and differentiate them was between was the ears.
Yeah.
So okay, so seals don't have an external ear; they just have this hole in the side of their head, which doesn't sound too pleasant. But how do they? What other ways are they able to keep warm? You mentioned that it's really important for them to try and maintain their body temperature. What ways are they able to do that?
So seals, they can be obviously quite large in size, which can help them in terms of that because they can store more fat. They've obviously got a big, thick layer of blubber that helps. It stores energy, it's insulation. So that's really, really important for them in those colder waters. A lot of people think that seals are almost bald, so you touch them and it'd literally be like blubber, but they have actually got fur. It's quite like coarse on a grey seal, for example, so it can actually like quite irritate your skin. But they do have that layer of fur as well to help keep them warm.
Yeah, when they are swimming. Actually, we've got some clips of that. So why don't we? I'll play that now just to show everybody what. Actually, before I do, we know that mammals that these seals are mammals. They inhabit the sea, but most people probably I don't think many people would have seen seals in real life, and if they have, they've probably just seen the top of their heads. Bobbing up on the water. Can you describe what a grey seal looks like and some of the features that you want to look out for?
I guess really, if I was going to put it really simply, it probably wouldn't be a very eloquent description, but they are really big and they're they look a bit like a giant sausage in the water almost.
I love it.
They're the UK's largest carnivore, so they can be really, really big. But the grey seals that we get two species in the UK. So you get the greys and you get the commons. The greys, in comparison, they've got a much broader sort of long sloping nose, whereas the common seals, they often get called cuter. I mean, I think they're both pretty cute, but they've got like a bit of a pinched kind of nose. Grey seals also, they've got they're quite dark all over and more uniform compared to a common seal, which is a bit more sort of speckly and lighter all over.
Right. Okay. I mean, for me, I'm not gonna lie. It's still, I still find it hard to tell the difference between them. But really cool animals. Let's play a clip of that. And whilst I do, I'm gonna ask a question. A question's come in from Stephen Rance. How much do they need to eat on average, roughly, in any one day?
Oh gosh. Thanks, Dad.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Stephen. I love it.
I mean, they can get through a heck of a lot of fish. I'm trying to think kilos off the top of my head, to be honest with you. We'd get through a hell of a lot of fish when we're working at the seal sanctuary. It is, oh god,
lots and lots of fish, basically. That's what they're after.
Basically.
Yeah. Okay. Nice one. I like that. That's a brilliant question in from Dad. Love it. Let's see. Do we have any other questions? No other questions at the moment. If you are watching, please fire in your questions for Natalie. Questions for me. Let me have a look at the list of things that I want to find out about. Oh, here's a good one, because I understand that you might have some props for us. So how can you tell the difference between the males and the females? Are there any external differences that we can look out for when it comes to grey seals?
Yeah, definitely. So just looking at them in general, size is obviously quite a big one. So the males, they can get up to about 2.6 meters in length, whereas the females maximum length around about 2 meters.
Okay.
Weight wise, males up to about 300 kilos, females about 200. Pattern wise also, they can be quite different. So the males are darker, they've got a much broader, bigger nose, and the slope of their nose is again a lot bigger basically. The females, they've got a white speckly belly, but in terms of props, yeah, I'm literally just going to grab them now. So
yeah, let's have a look.
Got a couple of grey seal skulls. So this one, we believe is a male, whereas
that is massive.
They are pretty beefy.
Huge.
And this one here, we think is a female. So the way that you tell, as I said, the nose of a male is a lot longer, basically, and bigger. So how you tell the difference is from the back of the eye socket to the back of the skull, and then the front of the eye socket to the tip of the nose. And you basically measure those two distances. So in a female, it's a much more even split. So it's about 50-50.
So if you could just hold up that female skull and show us the place that you're measuring to and from. So there, where's the measuring distance that you're looking at?
So you'd want to go, if I go sort of like that, around about from the back of the eye socket to the back of the skull, and then sort of from the front of the eye socket about here to like the tip of the nose. And
you're saying in the females, those two distances are relatively equidistant. They're pretty much the same, sorry.
Pretty much 50-50, whereas like in a male, there's a bit more difference in it. This one's not in quite, you can see, as good condition as the one.
It's still very cool.
But from the back, so you might not be able to tell because of the condition of it. There to there, in a male, it's nearer sort of like 35 to sort of 65.
Right, I see.
Towards the nose.
And so does that give them any sort of advantage, give the males any sort of advantage when it comes to, I don't know, defending their territory against other males, or why do we think that they've got that longer front end on the skull?
It's kind of really, I guess, a form of showing off, showing that they're a big dominant male. So the really, like the big dominant males that you get will have the much broader nose and just a bigger in general. So it is basically like a breeding feature to kind of show off to all the girls.
Okay, cool. It's just like, hey, I'm cool. I'm suave. Right, okay. We've got a couple more questions coming in, which is great. Thank you very much, everybody. I've got one for you, Natalie, which goes back to the features of the faces of the grey seals. The scientific name of a grey seal is, and I'm probably going to butcher this, so you can correct me, Halichoerus grippus. That was terrible. My Latin teacher would kill me. Which supposedly translates to hook-nosed pig of the sea, which isn't very nice if you ask me. What's that description all about? And can you please help me with my Latin pronunciation?
I would say it like Halichoerus grippus.
You said it.
But you weren't
Lovely.
too far off, to be fair. It's pretty much like if you see them in a side profile, you can see why, again, especially with the males, like it kind of slopes down and is a bit like a hooked nose. So that's pretty much where they get the name from.
Cool. Well, that's good to know. There you go. We've got some questions here. Let me just have a little look through. What are the main threats, asks Ben Harris, to our seals, if any?
So obviously marine litter is a massive one. And it's one in particular at the Seal Sanctuary that was just huge. So obviously a lot of them, they are very inquisitive animals. So if they see something like a piece of fishing net floating in the water or just a piece of plastic, they're going to swim up to it. They're going to try and play with it. And quite often it ends up with it getting trapped around their necks or their other limbs. And as they grow, obviously the rope or whatever it is doesn't grow with them. So it just cuts in and they can get some really, really nasty wounds. So that's a massive one. Like you can help really like massively by doing something like a 2-minute beach clean, literally just going down to your local beach and picking stuff up for 2 minutes, or if you live even inland, doing the same in your local park, because 80% of the marine litter that we get, it actually starts off inland and then it'll work its way down the rivers. It'll be blown into the sea by the wind, so you can still help even if you're living in the city or inland.
Yeah, that's surprising to think 80% of litter that ends up on the coasts, what comes from inland. That's such a mad kind of concept. So there you go. That's how you can help out our seals. Beach cleans and just keeping our parks and other inland waterways clear of trash. Is it dangerous to come across a seal whilst swimming? And what should you do if you do happen to be in the water and a seal approaches you?
They are really big animals, so yes, they've got the potential to hurt you, and you definitely wouldn't want to start one. They're wild animals. You can never say like, oh, they're not going to hurt you. Generally, they're pretty gentle and inquisitive, but particularly around like breeding time, you wouldn't want to upset one. And if you see like a massive male in the water, they are huge, up to 300 kilos. So
whoa, 300 kilograms.
Yeah, and they've got
what?
I mean, those skulls don't really do their teeth justice. They've got really, really sharp teeth that actually have really nasty bacteria.
Wait. I'm really surprised at that. Look, I'm even switching the camera so everyone can see the whites of my eyes. 300 kilograms. That sounds bonkers.
Yeah.
Are you sure you've done your maths right there? That's like like 3.5 of me.
They are literally, they can be absolutely huge.
Same size as a big tiger, says Ben Harris. He's been filming tigers. That's pretty massive. I'm really surprised. So so they got this big size, in particular the males. How are they fueling this increase in body mass? What are they feeding on, and how do they feed? How do they find their food?
So they're going to be hunting, mainly it's fish and cephalopods that they're going to be eating. Very occasionally, if there's not much prey, they have been known to eat seabirds, but it's not their go-to prey. So they're obviously out hunting in the water to find their food, basically.
And what are they after? Sorry, fish and cephalopods?
Yeah, so particular favourites would be something like sand eels or cod. But yeah, they are pretty opportunistic feeders, so they will eat near enough anything, really.
Yeah, for sure. And how do they find this food?
So they spend obviously a lot of their time in the water. Compared to a common seal, they have more of an even split, sort of in the water and hauled out on the side. Yeah. Common seal can spend sort of up to 90% of their time literally in the water. Whereas the grey seals will spend a bit less than that, but it is literally them sort of swimming around and looking for the food, just seeing what they can get.
Yeah, explorers of the sea. How long do they live for? And then also got some questions, some more questions in from our viewers, which is great. So how long do grey seals live for? And how many seal pups can a female give birth to in a litter?
Okay, so age-wise, a good age for a grey seal to reach is around the 30s. They can, obviously, particularly in captivity, they are known to live a lot longer, as are many animals, because they've not got the threat of predators. They've got loads of food. So they can live longer than that. Mm-hmm. But on average, you're looking at around about 30 years. Okay, nice. In terms of the pups, they've got a really long gestation period. So they're actually pregnant for about 11 and a half months. So they are literally giving birth to one pup. And that's in sort of the September through to around about December that they pup.
So they're investing all that time and all that energy into raising that one young. How much time, I'm thinking, if they do tend to give birth to just one pup, they need to invest time to make sure that pup makes it to adulthood. How much time do the mothers, and if the fathers do get involved as well, how much time do the parents spend raising and nurturing their young?
They're actually not very good mothers in general. You're going to be surprised. They literally spend 3 weeks with that pup.
Oh, really? And that's it?
That's literally it. So the pup will be born grey seals. Fun fact, their pups are actually white. So they've got that really adorable fluffy white coat that everyone kind of typically associates with a cute little seal pup. And basically, they've got that coat for around about 3 weeks. Once that's gone, so is mum, pretty much. The mum gives them really, really fatty milk, so they can put on sort of a couple of kilos a day. But they are independent from very, very young.
From 3 weeks old, and they have to look out for potential predators. What predators do grey seals have here in the UK? And actually, can you remind us how many species we do have here in the UK? I think you mentioned it was 2. But just want to double check on that.
Yeah, so it is 2 species. So it's the grey seals. They are mostly around Cornwall is the biggest hotspot for them, because they deal well with the rocky coasts that we've got there. They're a lot bigger. They're actually about double the size of the common seal, which is the other species we have. Mm-hmm. Common seal, sometimes known as a harbour seal as well. They're mostly around the east coast, the northeast, and Scotland. So it's a lot sort of sandy around those areas, and they can haul out easier.
Okay, so the grey seals tend to be a bit hardier and prefer the rocky outcrops, which explains why you work with them on the Isle of Scilly. What's it like out there, and what's it like to interact with seals? Grey seals as you're doing your survey.
I'm definitely very lucky to live here, to be honest with you. Everyone does have this view of it being like a beautiful subtropical island that's permanently sunny. I mean, it's beautiful. It's definitely not permanently sunny, I can tell you that. You get pretty battered by the storms and everything here, which again, grey seals are super tough and they can sort of handle that. They'll hide out of the way. I've actually done a rescue here a few months back now, where one had crawled up the side of the local pub out of the storm.
Was looking for a drink. Quick out.
Just like wanted to shelter from the weather, because the weather here can get horrific.
Can imagine. We've got a couple of questions in. Another one from wildlife filmmaker Ben Harris. He wants to know: are there any populations in the UK that have different feeding patterns, like orca? I read something earlier that it might differ slightly regionally, and where they are really opportunistic, if there is sort of obviously more of one type of fish in a certain area or whatever, then they are likely to go with that. But that's more likely to be on kind of prey availability than anything. Right, okay. Let's have a look. I'm going to play... You sent me this clip, Natalie, of a skeleton of a... seal being put together. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about the work that you do at the Isle of Scilly Wildlife Trust?
Yeah, sure. So the skeleton that you'll show everyone in a minute is we've nicknamed him Pernagy.
Sorry, say that again.
Carnegie, we've called him.
Carnegie. Okay, so we've just seen that picture. Now we're seeing this time lapse go through. So what's going on here?
So it's basically John, who lives in Penzance, who is cataloguing this skeleton for us. So he basically sort of sorted out all of the bones of this skeleton that we found off St Martin's, which is one of the islands here. And what we're hoping is to raise enough money to be able to get the skeleton articulated so that we can take it out to local schools and stuff for education.
Very, like, super impressive. How long did it take him to put this skeleton back together?
I'm not actually certain in terms of hours. I mean, I think it was quite a long process. So it came to him basically like in a box, and he had to work out what was what. And he doesn't actually work with seals in general. His history is more sort of on the human side of biology. But yeah, he basically catalogued it all together, but time-lapsed as he did it, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, with that video just finished playing, it looked really impressive. Very cool. And thank you for sharing that with us. Really interesting to see the different types of work that people do in and around wildlife and nature. Let's focus a little bit. We've got a few minutes left, so let's talk about the work that you do at the Isles of Scilly Wildlife Trust. You're part of a team that's running a seal survey. Why are you running this seal survey, and what are you hoping to find out?
So the seal survey was actually set up by my line manager, Nikki. And the concept is basically in aims of helping to get more areas protected. So the Cornwall Seal Group do a lot of seal surveys, and they actually helped us train up in how to do the surveys. But the aim is to photo ID all of our seals, basically. So all of them have got individual markings. So like your fingerprint, each seal's markings is unique to them. So you can work out basically who is who, and that should help us track who's going where. And if they're moving to areas that maybe aren't protected, we might be able to work to get those protected.
Interesting. So it's not just about protecting the areas that you know the seals inhabit and live in. It's kind of trying to figure out where their range extends to make sure those areas are protected. And when you say protect those areas, can you give us a little bit of detail as to what that means?
Okay, so the Isles of Scilly, we're very lucky here. We've got a lot of designations and we're pretty well protected. So the whole of the Isles of Scilly is an area of outstanding natural beauty. And one of the main reasons that we've got that designation is the landscape as well, and a lot of the history there, but also because of how important our population of grey seals is to not only the UK population, but to literally the world population. So UK has got 40% of the world population, which is pretty phenomenal.
That's 40% of grey seals.
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
So like some of the stats are amazing. So the UK's got 40% of the world population. Scilly itself contributes about 41% of regional pupping. But the UK has actually 95% of the EU population. So it's so important that we can work out where they're going sort of around the UK and where they're moving on from there, so that we can make sure that everywhere they move to is protected, because not everywhere is.
And what have you found so far from that? Actually, you know what? I want to know, how are you doing this IDing? Are you doing it by eye? Are you taking pictures in the water, out the water? Because surely once a seal comes out of the water, it kind of goes squash and kind of flattens out, so that makes it hard to take pictures of the patterns on its body. Yeah,
it's a pretty difficult process. So we go out with one of our local boatmen, and we try and keep, basically it's really important to keep a big distance from them so that you're not disturbing them. So we've got a really good zoom lens, and it's literally, we move along in the boat and basically try and do it in as little time as possible, because we don't want to be disturbing them. And it is literally taking loads of photos and then later trying to catalogue them and work out who's who.
Right, so it's a job that involves a lot of dedication.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Patience and time. I think we're all pretty much out of time, but before we go, I just want to say, well, I want to ask you. Well, we'll do two questions. For you, what is it about grey seals, the Isles of Scilly, and and working with the Wildlife Trust that really gets you going? You know, what is it about being there that gets you out of bed in the morning?
I mean, it's quite easy in general with some of the views that you see. Like, my commute to work is along a coastal path, so I definitely can't complain in that front. But I've always wanted to work with animals. I did a zoology undergrad, and then I did a wildlife filmmaking master's. So I've always been really passionate about that. But I mean, I've got quite personal reason as well in terms of why I A, love Scilly and why I B, love seals. So I actually lost the majority of the sight in my left eye due to a waterborne parasite. So I didn't go in the water for a good 2 years, which for me, when I loved water so much, was a massive deal. And Scilly was actually the first place after about 2 years that I went back in the water. And I did go and swim with some seals.
Nice. So it's kind of like a one. It's beautiful anyway, that has a kind of special place in your heart.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it's a really important part of like my personal journey as well. And yeah, the place and the animals played a massive part in that for me.
Fantastic. Right, I think it's time. Actually, no, I've got one last question. One last question. This might seem or sound really silly, but to me, seals seem very dog-like. Are they related at all? And why do I feel that they are quite dog-like? Is that are they quite curious creatures? I don't know what I'm asking. It's more just an observation, and just would love to get your opinion on that.
No, that is definitely a thing. Literally, so again, when you go back to like greys and commons, people call grey seals dog-like because they've got quite like a Labrador, really, their face, the big eyes and the way their nose slopes, whereas the common seals get called cat-like. But even relation-wise, yes, they are to some extent related to dogs. And they can even get some of the same diseases. So dogs can get canine distemper, seals can get phocine distemper. So yeah, you're not imagining it.
Cool. Well, look, I think we're all out of time. But Natalie, I just want to say a massive thank you to yourself and the Isles of Scilly Wildlife Trust for joining us today and for sharing your love of grey seals. What can people do to help you guys out before we let you go?
So we have our 3-year Scilly Seal Appeal. So the skeleton that you guys saw, that's a really big part of that. So that's in terms of education and getting out to teach people the threats to seals and what we can do. We want to raise money towards that, as that's a really great education tool, but it's also towards all of our survey work. So yeah, if you go onto our website or our social media, you'll be able to have a look at the Scilly Seal Appeal. And if you can help out in any way, whether that's a donation or just sharing information, then yeah, please do.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Well, thanks very much for that, Natalie. I'm going to leave a link in the description of this episode in just a second, but I think we're all out of time. But yeah, thank you so much, Natalie, and look forward to catching you again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All right, take care now. Thanks. Well, everybody, that was Natalie Rance from the Isle of Scilly Wildlife Trust. Fantastic to be able to have a chat with her about her passions, which is obviously the Isle of Scilly and grey seals. Up next on Friday, 11 a.m, we're going to be talking to... Oh, who are we talking to? Stuart Edmunds, who is a mammal specialist and a pine marten enthusiast. So if you want to tune into that, in fact, not if you, I know you're going to want to tune into that, so just make sure you set a reminder, have a look through the video list. We're going to be adding some more videos over the next couple of days for next week and the week after. Hope you're enjoying it. Please let me know what you think of these Wild and Lives. Drop a comment below. If you do or don't like it, I do not mind. I just want to know what you are enjoying, what you'd love to see. So it would mean a lot to me if you could just drop a little message in the comments box. And also, if you haven't done so already, make sure you are subscribed to my channel. I'm going to be coming up with with lots more content for you in the next couple of weeks. But until Friday, it's been great to talk to you. Let's play a little. Let's play around with this. I've got a new setup. We're using Ecamm instead of OBS, so hopefully you can hear me well and you can hear all our guests. Ooh, that's nice. So on that note, I think it's time to wrap up. Look forward to seeing you guys on Friday for our next episode of Wild and Live. Until then, take care, and I'll see you later. Bye.